Welcome to Renovate Ed, where we talk about all things home and renovation related. Hosted by Jennifer Goldsby, a renovation lending expert. Let's get renovated. Who's Kyle Nicholas, owner of Nicholas Design Build, a Fishers, Indiana-based design and build firm serving the northern side of Indianapolis. They discuss remodeling trends, stories, and advice for homeowners looking to make their own home improvements. Stay tuned to learn about budgeting, the importance of expecting the unexpected, and more.
Kyle, welcome to Renovate Ed.
Hi,
It's good to have you here. Can you tell our audience who you are and what you do?
my name is Kyle Nicholas. I'm the owner, president, and I guess founder of Nicholas Design Build. We are a residential design build firm. Primarily, we work in Indianapolis, specifically the northern quadrant, and we focus on higher end residential remodeling.
Okay, I was wondering. So mostly luxury improvements?
Yeah, I mean, the word luxury is discretionary to a particular client. Luxury to one client might not be luxury to another. I met with a client this morning, and one of the things that I consistently heard was the home that she's moving into and looking to renovate. She calls it her forever home, the home that she's going to make memories on. And that's really where we shine, is coming alongside our clients and their families and understanding the pain points of the space that they're working with and how can we transform it.
Yeah. We see all manner of renovations. It could be something small and a fixer-upper that somebody's buying and they just want to do the bare minimum to pass appraisal and they'll do the rest of it later. Or we see complete gut jobs, remodels, new additions, you name it. What do you most commonly see folks are doing out there?
It's all over the spectrum. I mean, the you know, I think right now the biggest trend in remodeling is probably renovating to the outdoor living area. Post COVID, improving how we're interacting with the outside, whether that's putting a covered pavilion with a fireplace, adding some cool fire features, some lighting. Oh, I've got a project right now that's going to contract on Tuesday that's a pavilion with a pool, and two young kids. So I'm sure they're excited to make some memories.
It's funny you say that because spring is here. I've been spending a lot of time outside. I've lived in this house for about 10 years and I've done all of the landscaping on three sides of the house, but I've left the back blank because I can't figure out what I want to do back there. And I don't want to spend
Yep.
any money till I figure out what is my plan? What is my
That's
vision?
the most difficult thing is and really that's where we come in and we shine, is coming alongside a client like yourself and understanding. So, hey, what is it? How old are your kids? What are they interested in? Because if they're interested in soccer and the back half of the house is going to be taken up with a pool, that's probably not the best investment.
Yeah.
So just really coming alongside and understanding the pain points and how we can transform that space and make it to what it was, make it to what you guys
Yeah.
want it to be.
Yeah, I think I'm probably in the same boat as many homeowners when I say one of the things that prevents me moving forward is I'm afraid of the sticker shock. I don't want to see what it's going to cost.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, we're like what, a week and a half into tariffs. I mean, that's the terrible T word at this point. Post COVID, I can remember buying 2x4s for $1.79. Today, a 2x4 is now $4. So
Wow.
it's similar to the cost of milk. It's very hard to conceptualize how things have went so far so fast.
Are you already beginning to see the effects of the tariffs, or are you expecting?
We're connected nationwide with a large group of both vendors and manufacturers. While we're not necessarily understanding the financial impact, most of our projects, when you sign up with a design build firm, it's a long term. We're slow, detailed, and it's complicated. And that said, it takes time. So as we're meeting with clients today, we want to be ahead of that conversation, because if we do get a 25% increase on Canadian goods, most likely that will be passed on to plywood. And plywood goes in your cabinetry, it goes in everything. To directly answer your question, we're not really financially dealing with it yet, but we
Yeah.
are forecasting dealing with it. Fiduciary duty to our clients is to try to get ahead of it as quick as possible.
I appreciate that. When I'm working with a a buyer or a homeowner on financing, I have what I call my setting expectations conversation with them up front. This is what the process is going to look like. This is what you can expect. This is what it's going to cost. And then we also have the conversation about rates, and that's, a whole other story, but we can't forecast, right? We can just tell you what has happened, what we're hearing, what may happen. You guys make the decision. But I appreciate the fact that you're having that conversation up front and setting those expectations well in advance. And if it doesn't hit, it doesn't hit, right?
I mean, that if it doesn't hit, that's great. Who wouldn't want to not have to pay an extra 25% on every plumbing or electrical fixture that goes in their house?
Yeah. Where I see folks getting in trouble is when they're working with contractors who overpromise and underdeliver, underbid projects up front, and then we're all scrambling towards the end. We got to make changes because we've got to save money and cut costs somewhere to pay for the things that must be done rather than the things that we'd like to have done. And it's a real mess. So I appreciate that you're thinking about that. You're having the conversation well in advance when you're working on your budgeting. I'm glad that you said that it is a long process and it takes some time because I am seeing that difference as well. If folks hire a contractor, mom and pop shop, maybe a smaller firm, we might get a bid quickly and work might get done quickly. But what I'm seeing on the other end of the spectrum is when they're hiring a design firm, things take a very long time. Can you walk us through that process and what that looks like?
I've been doing this for 13 years. I probably don't look old enough to have done it for 13 years, but I was that guy, right? And I was the one remodeling your bathroom and asking you what tile you wanted and what grout color you wanted. And while you can get to it quicker up front, there's a cost at the end of it. That cost can be time, it can be mistakes, it can be redos. So to answer your question, one of the reasons that we've transformed our firm and even totally modified our name from Nicholas Construction, which is a third generation name, to Nicholas Design Build, was the fact that we do believe in the preparedness. We do believe in the details because the details are what set our project apart. And design build is timely. So it's not for everyone, not for that person that wants to DIY it. It's for the person that really wants it done right. And I think that's why it resonates really well with the clients that are looking for the forever home.
It is interesting because you said it comes at a cost if you go down one path or the other. I would say that that is very true. From the seat that I sit in as a financier, I don't see a lot of difference in the cost. I mean, the cost is
historically speaking, I tell clients the way that our fee structure is set up, you're really on the totality of the project, you're paying about 8% for design. So we charge 3% for schematic design if you need it. Some projects don't need it. If it's a simple bathroom, we have a process called refresh that can very quickly get that project scoped. But if it's moving walls and some things like that, we're very similar to an architect where we charge about 8% of the expected cost for that. And then once we jump into detailed design and we're making material selections, that's where that other side of the 5% comes in, where you have that designer with the level of confidence that's selected. Some of my designers have selected hundreds of bathrooms. They can be that voice in your head that really gets you to make the difficult decisions.
That's very helpful because it's frustrating when people drag their heels out of indecision, not just for their partners and the people they're working with, but I see it amongst the customers themselves. I see it between the husband and the wife. When there is indecision, there is a lot of tension. So I think it is helpful to have somebody who's kind of prodding you along and helping you to make those selections and helping you to get things closer to the finish line. It certainly seems to be less stressful.
It's ironic that you say that. My wife and I, we moved into a home about 5 or 6 years ago, and we've completely transformed it. We were building a house, and I was sitting on the beach, and I said, hey, I'm not going to move my family out into this cornfield. So we deviated and we remodeled. So I've been through it. I gutted the house and had a 3-year-old, or probably 1 and 3, running around on a construction site. It's difficult.
Yeah.
In several of the most recent projects that we've done, we've actually utilized our entire system. And what I would tell you is the result is much better.
Yeah.
Now, I own the company, right? Like we probably do over 100 projects a year. And going through that system with design does result in a better project than having the owner who does hundreds of projects try to pick stuff out on his own.
Yeah. Less
And it's not
friction.
as frustrating. I'm not knocking on my wife's door, for her office and asking her to pick a grout color. Those are the things that most clients, when they're starting down the remodeling process, don't think through.
Yeah. Yeah. All those details. And then something
So
goes wrong. You rip open a wall and you find something you didn't expect, and the tensions get even higher.
that's the truth. You get today in today's realm, with pricing the way it is, I think everyone's in a little bit of an uncomfortable situation typically, right? Like it's higher than you expected. It's higher than Google said you should be investing into the house. So at that point, we do start something. And I tell clients, man, this is a roller coaster. I use that analogy all the time. We start and I'm your best friend. You're so excited. Demo day's here and you're Joanna Gaines throwing sledgehammers through the wall. And then we find that the previous homeowners that you bought the house from, their husband was a hack at electrical, and half of the ceiling's got to get torn out, and we got to wire a new panel, and you were stretched to get that beautiful kitchen sink you wanted, and now we've got to stretch to get a new electrical panel added because you got to do it.
Yeah, you have to. We had one recently where a home buyer, and I think they were a first-time home buyer, bought this cute little house, little button of a house. And one of the things that they wanted to do was replace the siding, and they wanted to go with hardy plank. And
Yep.
they started to tear off that siding. They, the contractor, not the homeowner. So the GC goes out, she's tearing off the siding. And she calls me right away and she's like, I just got started and there is a ton of termite damage. And in my mind, I'm thinking, oh no, what is the rest of the house going to look like? And we're going to have to forego the hardy. We're going to have to go with vinyl because we got to cut costs somewhere. It's got to be done. And we've only got so much in contingency. Now we do carry a contingency reserve,
Yep.
which is great. And I'll say we dip into that 9 times out of 10. It's a rare occasion that we don't touch the
And
contingency.
I would suggest to any client, regardless, we don't hold a client's contingency, but we tell them they need to hold a contingency. And the reason is you're gonna find stuff.
Yeah,
You're gonna want to do something in the middle. I mean, that wild idea text that comes in at 5:30, 6 o'clock on a Friday night, where you're sitting there and we just installed kitchen cabinets and now you want to change and you want to do something. You're gonna do that, and that's fine, but you got to pay for it.
Yeah.
That's the unfortunate side of it. So in your example, I totally understand, and I'm glad you said termite damage because it could have been asbestos, and I thought that's where you were going to go with that. And I mean, I can tell you I've done some horrible jobs where you open it up and you do this asbestos testing, and now you're in hazmat suits.
Yeah. In that particular case, it ended up being a good turnout. They did not find extensive damage. It was contained. They were able to proceed with their hardy plank. It looks adorable. It's amazing. Everything looks great. New roof, they gutted it. They did the interior. It looks fantastic. But boy, my stomach dropped when she called me from the job site and said, I just started and this is what I'm seeing. I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Those surprises. So most of the clients that you're working with, do they tend to move out of their homes while the renovations are underway?
It just depends. I would say probably 50%. Our project prices went crazy. We do anything from your small master bathroom or your small, primary bathroom, hall bathroom, all the way up into full house guts. Multi-million-dollar full house guts. And when you get into a scope of project like that, it probably logically makes sense to get out of the way.
Yeah.
Most of the time, if we're doing a bathroom or something of that sort, I will request to the client, if feasible, if we're doing a kid's bathroom or something like that, hey, let's move them into the basement. I understand it's not ideal, but having done this for 13, 14 years, I can tell you that there's a lot of things that are in construction dust that I don't want on my kids' beds. Yeah. So from a health safety thing, I like trying to get some isolation. And then our crew, we spend a lot of time and honestly, our clients pay us to do dust mitigation, not dust elimination, dust mitigation. Um, and we try to do everything we can, but coming back to the roller coaster ride, I'm sure that the back door is going to get left open and it's going to blow into the dining room, and your mother-in-law is going to be showing up at 5 o'clock, and you're going to hate me.
Yeah. So in the very beginning of the project, who's moving stuff out? Does the homeowner have to clear the workspace, or are you guys moving stuff around?
Yeah, I mean, typically we're asking the client to remove all their personal items.
Okay.
And a lot of that is just because, like, we don't want to be going through your stuff. I mean, we're up in your business and we're going to be right there. We've seen some things that we shouldn't have seen. But at the end of the day, I don't think you want,
Yeah.
Connor, my carpenter, going through your personal items in your. So we ask that all the clients, they remove their personal items. And then any specialty, like if we're moving safes or large appliances or something of that sort, I request that those are moved as well, just by a specialty contractor or somebody who knows what they're doing to ensure that the item isn't damaged.
Homeowners going into this, they need to think about, where am I going to stay while the renovation is underway? And how am I going to move my stuff out? Where is it going to go? Is it going to go in storage? Is it going in the basement? Is it going in the garage? Where are we going to put all this stuff? You guys are cleaning as you go, but I know from experience that even when the contractor cleans themselves, there's stuff. You mentioned dust. What did you say? Dust remediation, or
Dust
mitigation?
mitigation.
Mitigation.
So the way I
Eliminate.
set the expectations, we talked about expectations, and honestly, I would say 9 out of 10 times that we have a remodeling project that doesn't end out well, it's because of misaligned expectations.
I would agree.
Client thought we were doing something and we were doing something else. So what used to be a 2-page contract is now an 18-page contract. And it's because of a misalignment of expectations at some point in the process. So to answer the question, we put dust walls, we have zip doors, we have filtering systems. But I can't control the fact that we're carrying kitchen cabinets in the house, and your daughter comes in the front door, and it's Indiana or it's wherever it is, and it blows out one of my dust walls. And of course, all the dust that I've just contained or mitigated is now all over your living room.
Yeah.
So that's the things that we have to have that expectation that at the end of it, if that happens, I'm going to do my best to make it right. I mean, we had a project last July, and we were pouring a big home addition here in Fishers, Indiana, and we had a contractor working overtime trying to get the job completed, the foundation completed, and he was shooting the rock to lay this was a large foundation, and he was shooting the rock. Well, a conveyor broke. The owner of this company, they're the largest concrete foundations company in the area. Well, of course, guess where it breaks? It breaks on our job site on the Friday before the 4th of July, and all the rock on the conveyor goes into the pool.
Oh no! Oh no!
And so
did it do any damage?
It tore $20,000 pool cover. It was a bad deal.
Yeah.
How did we respond? The individual that was on the truck actually had to go to the hospital. So now we're getting over there. Now we got to make it right. Well, we've got to get 5 tons out of the pool of rock. And oh, by the way, the clients are having a party.
Mm-hmm.
So it ended up, I think they were there till almost midnight, pulling the pool cover apart, and then in 5-gallon buckets, getting the rock out of the bottom of the pool so the client could have it. A party on that Saturday. So that's the kind of thing that you just got to kind of navigate through, because we are up in everyone's business.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got one myself. I had window replacement done, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, and a sliding door was a part of the deal. And they ripped out the back sliding door before they double checked to make sure that the one that was delivered was the right one. So lo and behold, the one that was delivered was too large. It was the wrong color. It was clearly the wrong door all around. And it's not the owner of the company that's out on the job site, but it's this guy's. I don't know if he subbed that out. I think that one, actually, I do know that one did get subbed out. So we got the tradespeople here, and they look at me and they're like, "What would you like us to do?" And I was like, "I think you better call your boss," you know? And so they come back and they say, "Okay, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna cut into the frame out." Nope, 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 nope. We're not doing that. The door's too big. We're not doing that. So he comes back again and he's like, "What would you like us to do?" I said, "Well, why don't you try to call around to a hardware store and see if you could find a door? Is this a standard size door? Just see if you could find something to plug up the hole. Let's just put something in there." And that was another case where they were working pretty late into the evening and they were tired and I felt bad for them, but it was like, good golly, you do this every day. Make sure your
Yep.
materials are correct before you rip out a whole door. He came to me towards the end. He's like, "Man, you're really calm about all of this." And I just had to laugh and I'm like, "Well, it's not my problem, it's your problem. I'm not going to fix it. You're going to fix it. One way or the other, there's not going to be a hole in the back of my
Yeah,
house
and I
by
mean,
the end of this night."
honestly, the advice I would tell a client getting ready to go into a remodel is prepare for the unexpected. The way
Definitely.
that you responded in that is amazing, and you would be so baffled at how many clients respond differently,
I wouldn't be
but
actually.
how your response in there positively probably affected those.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is a bad situation, but honestly, like it's not the fault
Accidents
of the
happen.
guys. It just
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
They're gonna, as long as they make it right. There's a lot of contractors out there who aren't gonna make it right, or they're gonna try to hold something over. And I'm gonna be behind every single homeowner that wants to put them out of business. But as long as they make it right, that's all that matters.
That's why they call them accidents.
It's an accident, and as long as we view it as an accident, we'll get around it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So we talked a little bit about the trends that are going on out there and a lot of
Mhm.
outdoor spaces being created. Are there any other trends that you're seeing?
Now things are going a little bit more modern transitional. Everyone goes to the grocery store about once a week. Those grocery store, they have those cool, overly expensive magazines of trends and stuff. And I say that what used to be the modern farmhouse is now probably more modern transitional. So you're seeing more clean lines. We're still open concept, but things are more clean lined, less ornate. So on an interior finishing basis, I would say that that's more of a trend. Low maintenance is another one too. So we're looking at a lot of ways that we can reduce the maintenance. So a lot of tile areas are going to these larger porcelain panels,
Hmm.
solid surface areas where we're looking at less grout, and that really helps the client in the long term maintenance of the project.
No kidding. Who wants to clean all that tile grout in a shower? No, thank you.
You can get I mean, you can get grout for $5. You can get it for $50, and it doesn't matter. It's grout.
I agree. It's a lot of work. It's a very small thing, but one of my favorite things that I did because I use it every day is I do have a farmhouse sink, but I got a faucet that's really large. I don't even know what it's called, but it's really large and it has this curve to it, and I can remove the
Yep.
head and wash everything I need. I don't have a dishwasher. I don't have a microwave. I'm super old school. Less is more
Yep.
with me. But I love that kitchen faucet. I love it. It is
I tell you what's amazing is now, and it's funny because my parents are a little bit old school. My dad's a contractor from Southwest Florida, and Delta, we do a lot. We're a Delta advocate, Delta Brizo advocate, and they've come out with this Touch 2.0, which is amazing. You touch it, turns on, turns off. It's got some water sense features as well that reduce the consumption. But for someone like yourself who doesn't have a dishwasher, who you're touching it and washing dishes, and then that is, I installed one of those in Bob and Mimi Sohn's house here in Geist area about 8-10 years ago, and it was, we had a little bit of an issue with the grounding, but now it's come all the way. And having done that, it's life changing. I mean, that is,
it's interesting.
and it does take some getting used to. My parents come and visit, and the first couple times they're like frustrated because you leave it on, you leave the faucet on, and
Yeah.
then you touch it to turn it on and off.
Yeah.
And it's a little awkward, but when you get used to it, it's hard to go back.
Yeah. I imagine. Are there any words of wisdom you'd like to share with the audience?
Initially we touched on budgeting, and I think that that's a huge thing. I think that clients need to be aware that there is a discrepancy between probably probably what they think they're going to get and what they actually can get, no matter what the project. I mean, I deal with a wide spectrum of clients. I deal with the clients that really don't think they have a budget, and my response to them is, I'll find your budget. And then you have clients that are very, very specific in their budget. So as you're doing that, understand that you want to make the right partner. It may not be me. It might be a jack in a truck, but you want to find someone that you can find common ground with, and somebody that you can work with on an honest basis and trust. Because the last thing you want to do is put that expensive faucet in, but shortcut the installation of it. You're not going to get the faucet to work right if the installer can't ground it right.
That's true.
So that's the biggest thing when you're looking at budgeting, because as much as you think the pretty fixtures are nice, it's more about the finished work and the finished carpentry. You can buy the most expensive cabinetry in the world, but it's all about the carpenter who puts them in.
I would agree.
And the time and the effort that he takes to do it.
I would agree. I also agree that there's a huge discrepancy between what the client thinks something's going to cost and what it's actually going to cost. It happens to me all the time. I get to talk to these folks usually before they've even selected a contractor. I'm working with a gal right now. Her mom owns a home. I don't know if she inherited it or if it was an old family home or what the situation is, but it's been vacant for a number of years. So imagine, the condition that it is. And it needs everything. Everything needs to be updated. And I asked, what is your budget? What do you think it'll cost? And she says $70,000. And I'm like, there's no way. There's no way.
It is the most difficult thing in our business is how do we value, I've been doing this. We've done 7,500 homes in Indianapolis, I think, as a start of the year. And, we get a lot of clients. Well, somebody calls me and they're like, hey, I want a $50,000 kitchen. Well, a $50,000 kitchen 5 years ago was one thing. A $50,000 kitchen, I mean, that barely gets you a kitchen package anymore.
Yeah.
But that said, it's not the client's job to know how much it should cost. It's really not. It's our job as the contractor and as the professional to help to educate the client on what the cost of the labor to do it right, to do it safely, what it costs to go in there, and what their bill is. Now, if there's a misalignment, then we need to realign it. And typically that's done through working through fixtures, working through work scope. Maybe you don't get solid hardwood, the De Chateau that's $18 a foot. Maybe you get engineered for $8 a foot. There's a million ways of getting there. You just got to figure out which way is right for you.
Yeah. That client that I mentioned, she is shopping for contractors and she's got one bid back. She's waiting on two others. And the first bid came in over $200,000. And so she emails me and she's like, needless to say, we won't be going with them. I'm thinking, I'd be surprised if the other two come in much less than that, based on what I've heard. But she'll just have to find out the hard way, I suppose. But we see a lot of that misconception. And then you talked too about change orders. Although we have contingency reserves that can cover some things, that's another place where people lose money because they're constantly changing their mind. It's such a good idea to know what you want, to make those decisions, to stick with your decisions. We've got a project right now. We're on change order number 7. We're maybe 63% of the way done with the project. Change order number 7. I don't think I've seen that many on a project personally, but they're changing their minds like the weather changes in Indiana, and it's costing them an arm and a leg. They're going to blow right through that contingency.
I would tell you right now that if there's any piece of advice, if you can slow down towards the front, it will save you when you're building.
There you go.
The guys that are building your project are not the guys that you want picking the fixtures out. And the biggest difficulty, and I tell people this all the time, and they think I'm crazy. Change orders cost you 2 times what you think they should cost you. It's how, whether it's a $500 change order for a faucet, I put a principle in about 2 years ago. Any change order that comes through, whether it's assigned or not, it adds a week to the project. By the time you call me, tell me it's a change order, I get a change order written up, I bring it back to you, I get it priced, all this kind of stuff, we've lost time. And the old saying of time is money, gosh, man, if I'm in Jimmy's bedroom in the bathroom and Jimmy's downstairs and you ask me for a change order to change the tile and it's the week before the tile lady gets there, it's not a good time to do that.
Well, we'll end on that good piece of advice that you need to slow down in the beginning, get the
Yep.
details correct, stick with your decisions, and that way you'll have a better outcome at the end. Kyle, it was great having you here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. This was great. This was immensely, I think, valuable to everyone, and I hope the listeners actually got something out of it as well.
I hope so too.
Now the legalese required to appease attorneys, compliance officers, and regulators. This podcast is hosted by Jennifer Goldsby, NMLS number 591226, Vice President, Renovation Lending. The topics discussed herein reflect my personal opinion. They do not represent the opinions of Diamond Residential Mortgage Corporation and its management. Discussions about loan programs in this podcast are not a commitment to make a loan. Programs, approvals, rates, fees, and loan terms are subject to loan applications, credit risk, appraisal evaluation, underwriting guidelines, and other lending or qualification criteria and limitations, and are subject to change without notice. Not all products are available in all states. Not all borrowers will qualify. Diamond Residential Mortgage Corporation, 582 Oakwood Avenue, Lake Forest, Illinois, 60045, 847-244-9301. NMLS number 186805. For licensing information, go to nmlsconsumeraccess.org/entity details.aspx/company/186805. Equal housing opportunity. Diamond Residential Mortgage Corporation is not affiliated with or acting on behalf of or at the direction of FHA, VA, USDA, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, or any governmental body or agency.